Hey, Paul, did you know that Classical Music Institute season starts tomorrow? They're going to have music of Villa-Lobos.
Yeah. Our office is only a block away.
And join us tomorrow night as we start our season, Forbidden and Forgotten, with both Villa-Lobos and Bloch. And thank you for joining in to the final episode of CMI Composer Madness Forbidden and Forgotten, as we are finally to the Forte 4 and the championship matchup. Here with me tonight is Paul Montalvo and Dr. Eric Schneeman, who is sporting a shirt from CMI Joy, our junior orchestra for youth, and finally was able to get him a new shirt.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for the support.
Yes.
So I'm so excited to jump right into our Forte 4. We finally got some very big heavyweight matchups and some really interesting things that are shaking out today. So the number 1 seed, Mendelssohn, is taking on the number 2 seed, Messiaen. And finally, Messiaen pushed Mendelssohn for his first real tough matchup. But in the end, there was a little controversy at the end with the tip-in, but Mendelssohn somehow had to go in.
I think really what threw us off here, Messiaen, of course, coming from the Debussy school and what have you, relied a lot on parallel fifths there, and that, of course, caused some controversy and caused also a lot of fouls that then allowed Mendelssohn to really set up for some nice clean shots right there at the end, penalty kick-ins. So, I mean, it was overall, I felt it was a good match. Honestly, I mean, you're just sort of, you're doing sort of an apples to orange a little bit, which does make it interesting. But at the same time, you're kind of wondering, how is this whole thing going to play out? And really, in the end, I think it was just the fact that Messiaen was just getting a little too out there, So
That's great point, Eric. I think going back to, you said that sort of apples and oranges thing, I'm actually kind of surprised it was as close as it was. I thought Mendelssohn would run away with it, actually. And I've kind of been on Messiaen's back the whole tournament, but in all seriousness, he's an incredibly gifted composer. The sound world that he created was absolutely unique. He also served time at a concentration camp, the Stalag 8A, and Quartet for the End of Time is something we all, as classical music fans, really love. And
well, I think that's where he sort of got that crack, if you will. He finally sort of upended the Mendelssohn juggernaut, because just like Mendelssohn, he could he could use very conservative, he used the instruments that were at hand. Right. When he was imprisoned.
The instruments that the players were there in the prison had. Yeah.
Exactly. And, as we discussed with Mendelssohn versus Coleridge Taylor and in other Mendelssohn matchups as well, Mendelssohn also had that same ability. He didn't have to use huge orchestrations to make very powerful statements as well. But I think that's what threw Mendelssohn off there at the beginning. But as you said, I mean, it was down to the end. It was a really harsh battle there to the end.
So Mendelssohn finally gets tested and passes this almost final test, moving on to the championship matchup versus the winner of Schoenberg as the number 1 seed going against Martineau as the number 2. And this one, Martineau did fall to Schoenberg 4-1. Just didn't have quite the energy going into this, and it's setting up quite the matchup in the finals.
Yeah, I can't really argue with this result. I think I'm a little surprised actually that Schoenberg got all the way. People, most audience members, most people who know classical music or even who don't know classical music, when they hear 12-tone and serialism type compositions, it's not very attractive music to them. So, pre-atonal music, Transfigured Night, Gurrelieder, some of his early works, Schoenberg is still loved, mainly, I think, by most audience members for those.
Yeah.
More so than his post-atonal works.
Yeah, I mean, his atonal works are always controversial, but at the same time, they are always surprising, right? And they do have these moments of transfiguration. So I think that's ultimately what kind of helped Schoenberg there in the end. The fact that he could show, he shows musicians, he shows audiences. What you hear in his music is one unbridled lyricism and romanticism, but then you also hear just pure raw energy, atonal energy.
I think we have to make note. He emigrated to the U.S. in 1933, and he became an American citizen in 1941. But I'm just going to name out his notable students. Alban Berg, Anton Weber, and of course the three of them make up the Second Viennese School. Hans Eisler, Egon Velis, Nikos Skalkatas, John Cage, Lou Harrison, and Leon Kirshner. I mean, these are huge people. He had a huge influence on the way United States classical music went on from that period in the 20th century.
Right.
So a very fair matchup with Martineau getting as far. Schoenberg showing some class at the end there, which gets us to the matchup that we've all been waiting for weeks. We finally have 2 number 1 seeds facing each other in the finale. We've got Mendelssohn versus Schoenberg, and really it couldn't have been any tighter of a matchup. Honestly, I think this was what we had all been hoping for. Mendelssohn just narrowly edging out Schoenberg for the cup. Fortunately, Mozart has to give up the cup that was won last year versus Bach. So we will see what happens in the future for Mendelssohn. But in this matchup, Mendelssohn wins 3-2. And ladies and gentlemen, we have the title holder for Composer Cup Forbidden and Forgotten. Mendelssohn takes the crown.
Yeah. Not surprising.
Who predicted it?
Yes, I agree.
I don't want to talk about mine. I'm still listening. I'm about 2 hours into Meyerbeer opera, so I'll be listening for about 2 more hours.
Yeah.
How many? Let's go over this first.
All right. So how did this all play out? So look, Schoenberg said, "Hey, I can do the atonal, I can do the serialism." And just like Mendelssohn, who is sort of still holding on to certain classical older traditions, Schoenberg says, I can do the same thing with my serialism. Look, my first serial pieces with 12-tone, all my pitches in a row, and so on and so forth. I can put that as a minuet and trio. The music of Mozart and other 18th century composers as well. Well, what does Mendelssohn respond back with? He says, well, fine. You think that atonality is the only way we can go here. You want to do it sort of older pieces. Well, I'm going to take my Fourth Symphony in A major, commonly referred to as the Italian Symphony, and we're going to start it off in A major. But how does he end it? Does he take us back to A major? No. Instead, as you can see, he takes us to A minor, completely shocking Schoenberg, completely shocking us and the audience as well. This, of course, completely scrambled Schoenberg there at the very end, leading to that final goal, which we saw, and just a marvelous ending to a wonderful career in music and a complete and total wonderful talent who will never be surpassed.
That's some heavy words, and we'll have to see in future Composers' Cups if anybody can basically beat out Mendelssohn in your mind. So I think Mendelssohn is Dr. Eric's pick through and through. But, I'll tell you what, if it was between Mendelssohn and Mozart, I think my man is going to smoke him.
Possibly. Yeah.
But we'll have to wait until the next Composer Cups. So just wanted to let the audience know, if y'all have had a great season experience, we do hope to do this with a lot of different setups. We're foreshadowing a little bit of our next season. Can't release it quite yet, but there's a lot of great ideas. And if you all think of anything that you would love to see, or any content that you'd like to see from CMI, please let us know. So as we wrap up, of course, we had a wire-to-wire. Mendelssohn, if you look at the results, really until the Final Four, the Forte Four and the championship, really didn't have too much. So as we look back, do you think any of the snubs that we might have had, do you think any of them might have changed any of the outcomes?
Well,
Shostakovich.
Yeah. Well, and clearly there was a revenge, a blood cry, if you will, from his former students. So I think that definitely played a very interesting part in all of it. The thing, though, I'm walking away with is, I think Martineau can walk away with his head held high. I mean, he really went all the way to the end there. And I honestly was starting to wonder, were we going to have a Martineau versus Schoenberg? Were we going to have a Mendelssohn versus Martineau? But I think maybe we should look for him coming back in the brackets here real soon.
Right. I agree.
So it may be something where we have more of these Composer Cups, where we have a Champions Cup, when we have some more champions, and we can really see who Mozart needs to beat then to maintain the OG championship. Right. So we look forward to all of this, and thank you so much for tuning in and going along with us as we do the turns of all of this and some of our jokes that, as we become professional comedians. We've retired from one field already, and we are looking forward to being retired comedians in the future. So want to thank our crew in the background, Javier, Mariana, Chris. Wouldn't be possible without them. Also some of our guests, such as Mozart, Beethoven, and this really nice cat for this show. So on behalf of this table, Paul Montalvo, Dr. Eric Schneeman, I'm Donald Mason, and we really look forward to seeing you tomorrow night as we kick off the Composers Cup theme of Forbidden and Forgotten at the Tobin Center, the Carlos Alvarez at 7:30. So thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you and hope you've enjoyed this as much as we have. So long.